people peeing in corners, but then they're touching everything. It's just a really gross thing. New York has, for the first time in its history, New York City deliberately shut down its entire subway system this morning. So they've shut down the entire system so that they can clean it. Look here's the pictures of the workers that are cleaning. Now, I don't know if you guys have been in a New York subway. I think you both probably have.
In videos.
Oh, you never actually physically been in one?
Actually, yeah, a long time ago I went to New York. It was really cool.
Yeah, New York's great.
Okay, good.
I love it.
You need that experience one time.
Yeah, and maybe we should do
I'd like to do it again.
Hey, we should do a live show in New York. A Trending Stories Taking Over show in New York.
Wow, that'd be cool.
That would be fantastic. Hey, NBC Studios, if you need us to fill in for Jimmy Fallon, we're ready.
Right.
Or ABC or any of the, Cheddar.
Or
who knows?
Or if you'd like to fund,
any network.
Give me the monologue.
But they're cleaning the subway, and I'm like, first of all, I don't know if they can clean the New York subway system enough that it's actually clean. It's disgusting. There's pee in the corners, like everybody touches everything, which is one of the reasons New York blew up the way it did, I think, in
people are just
COVID.
peeing in corners.
People peeing in corners, but then they're touching everything. It's just a really gross thing. Now, I think it's good that they're taking action here, but will that stop the subways from spreading it? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Anywhere there's people.
Yeah.
Anywhere there's people touching things, which is what people do. We have little grubby hands, and we need to put them on things, which is getting Joe Biden in a lot of trouble.
So they're cleaning the subway system. Daniel says something about death ice rinks, which I had not heard of, and we should probably look that up because that might be a good story.
I'm going to look it up right now.
But there was a stat that got put out by Cuomo yesterday, Governor Cuomo from New York, and I'm going to find it here because it was interesting because it goes against what you would think. It goes against the logic, but the stats of how people are getting it and where they're getting it, it was like 60% of the people getting it are the people that are staying home.
Oh, interesting.
And the healthcare workers that are in the line of fire, they're down at like...
Yeah, they're not getting it at all.
They're down at like 5 or 6%, which makes no sense, right? They're literally there. Yes, they're in PPE and they're being protected, but that makes no sense. And then the number that blew me away, and I know the number because I saw it, I'll find it later to fact check it. The homeless population was only 2%.
Weird.
I don't think that doesn't calculate in my mind. If this is something that we're being safe from staying at home, yet the people that live outside and like they are around each other all the time, they are not, like, it's not running rampant, because that was the population I figured everywhere. Homeless will just be decimated because of, feeling so like it's so communicative and all this stuff. But that to me said, okay, we have a problem here in New York. We're not in New York. However, we have an issue that's like, we've gotten to the point where it's time to just kind of move, and everybody's putting things together, but New York shut down their subway to try and clean it up, which maybe means they're moving towards some sort of reopen. They're cleaning the subway. You clean
the New York subway once, it's going to be filthy by the end of the day.
Within hours, like not even the day.
Yeah.
Like
it's going to go back to
the rats. You got the Ninja Turtles. I mean, there's just too much down there.
Hey, don't you talk down on those rats, because like we learned from a Disney movie, those rats can cook.
And the scrubbing. And
they're scrubbing. They're clean.
They're clean.
Right.
They can cook.
Right. They're clean. And Hallie,
meals that you eaten with your family probably been cooked by a New York City sewer rat.
Sorry to break up this conversation, but Hallie says, and then we all go to grocery stores. Like,
that's right.
I'm just starting to feel very OTP, and I think that it's about time that we.
I am too.
Open it up, right?
But I definitely think that there is something to be said about what you were talking about, with like people being the ones that are staying, or the ones that are staying at home are the ones that are getting it, right?
Right.
Because if you go out at all, right, and you are in contact with somebody that everybody knows this is basic math. This is 1 and 1 equals 2.
Yeah.
But like if you're out of the grocery store, you come home, you're living with your family in a close-knit environment. The only time you leave is when you go to the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
You bring it into a petri dish with two to however many other living subjects, maybe one, but like
Right.
you just bounce it back and forth. Like it's just around. So that it makes sense to me as why that would happen. But I'm no doctor.
Well, but the other thing about that is the percentage of people that are getting it are still that high risk percentage, right? It's not the people that are 60 and younger. The majority, the 80 to 90% of the people that are getting it are over 80 and pre-existing conditions.
Right. Why couldn't we have just like gotten everything ready, get the close everything down, get the hospitals ready to have everybody like there ready for those cases, and then just gas us all with it. That way, those who are healthy can have it, get over it. Those who are not, they're already ready for you.
I'm not here for, I am not going to go for gassing. I think that's not it. Ken says OTP over the pandemic, open the country. I think I'm feeling like Ken. However, here's the thing. I think the problem, and I said this, this has been kind of my running commentary on this now the last couple of days. The problem with what's going on right now is what we did at first, which is what we needed to do. We shut everything down to make sure that we could figure things out. We've got enough data to know that the majority of the people that are getting infected and dying are in a very, very specific demographic. They're older and or pre-existing conditions, right? For the most part. However, we live in such a PC climate, a PC society. You cannot point out, hey, this demographic of people is more likely, so they need to stay home. You can't do that. It's wrong. It's immoral to point out a certain person. It's discrimination. No, it's not. It's logic. It's numbers. That's the reality. And
those
I think
people are not the enemy. It's the virus.
And you have
saying,
to.
Hey, you're going to get it.
Right. And you have to at some point say, you know what? We need to look at this and logic and not use our political brain and this politically correct speech and say, well, we can't call out anybody, so we need to have everybody stay home. No, we need
the older voters. We need them.
we need the older voters.
But they're going to take us to the next level.
I think I'm to the point now where I'm like, look, the reason that we're still shutting everybody down is because of the PC. And I think that's the biggest problem right now is that we're so afraid to say, hey, if you're over a certain age and you have pre-existing conditions, you need to stay home. Everybody else go about your day. Because if you look at the stats, and let me pull up I know we talked about not going on coronavirus today,
right?
But you can't not talk about it.
Right. Look that up, and then like Jen made a comment. I think at some point we just need to expect to get it, and I think you're absolutely right. I don't think this is like anything else. I don't think the precautions that the government has kind of enforced us to take had anything to do with us not getting it. Mm-hmm. It was only to make sure that we got it sporadically, so we didn't spike and like ruin our chances, like in Italy and stuff like that. So
that's the thing is a lot of people would say that we did do that. We did let it spike, and like it just started annihilating our people. But like. No, we still have a working class that's going to be able to get back out there as soon as this is all done and build the economy back up. And guess what? As soon as all this is over, the economy is going to boom like crazy.
So. Yeah.
Well, it's okay. So here's the Johns Hopkins map. So we're at 3,800,000 cases, 267,000 global deaths, 74,000 deaths in the U.S., almost 75, which is really sad. And it's a not what we want to see. We don't want to see all these deaths, right?
Right. Well, the blanket is we don't want any deaths.
Correct. We don't want any deaths. And then the conversation is, well, if you have to be everything, how much is a death worth, right? That's the conversation. Mm-hmm. How much is a death worth? Well, no deaths are acceptable. However, we are not we are finite people. We're not infinite people. We will die at some point. And if you look at the numbers for heart disease in America, which is the number one killer, it's over 500,000 deaths a year of the American public, the number one killer.
I think man is prostate cancer.
No, across the country. Like not gender specific. Then the accidental deaths for a year is 160,000 people die of accidental deaths. So if we're saying, hey, we want to stop 100,000 deaths, so we're shutting down the world, right?
Stop cars.
Don't go outside ever.
Right.
Like there is an acceptable amount of risk that we have just living life. And I think that's the point that I've gotten to. And I'm ranting. I don't need to rant on this. However, I'm ranting on this.
No, you're right. You're right. Because you almost stole the life of a young boy driving a car the other day.
Right.
No, he almost stole mine because he pulled out in front of me.
Right.
Come on.
Well, and I feel like
you can bell yourself all you want, Tom. We know what really happened.
All right.
I will say this: like, yes, we are going to get it, Chris. If we had gone on your idea of saying let's all stand in the street square, in the town square, and let them rain the coronavirus down on me, I'd say that's good. But counteroffer, we find an active volcano, and we take all of our elderly up there and just one by one set them off the planet.
No.
Okay, wow. Yeah, that's a little more
Jake.
extreme there.
We don't approve of that.
We write down what they have told us as oral tradition. We say this is our history.
All right, Jake. No,
we say
we do not accept this counteroffer, nor do we accept Chris's original offer.
No.
The offer we accept is open America, open the country.
Right. Open America. Because there's also people that are kind of unsung that I think that this whole quarantine has really brought to light on, which is those who live in homes that are unhealthy to begin with and who have suffered tremendous psychological and emotional and even physical abuse in these places. And that's a horrible tragedy that came out of this. Now, what can you do? But I feel like if we keep saying, oh, we got to do this to prevent the virus, all this kind of stuff, it's like, well, what about these people who live in a much more dangerous situation that we just put them in because they can't go anywhere?
Right.
They don't have the school to go to feel safe for a little while. Suicide gone up almost 400%.
And so much of that, the kids that go home to a family that is unhealthy, I think that is probably a worse scenario than somebody getting the coronavirus. I think because there's so much psychological, physical of the coronavirus is not fun, and there is psychological, but living in a home where you're not safe and you can't go anywhere,
where your backyard is an active volcano.
Jake with the volcano. Jen,
we'll use that as a metaphor.
Jen agrees with you. She says, absolutely, Chris. I 100% agree. And then she also says,
do I get a bell for that?
Way to put it in perspective. I'll give you a bell. There you go. There are consequences for shutting down like this. There's just consequences all over, and I feel like we're not willing to deal with the consequences. The risk that we take just for walking out the door in the morning, as of the data that we have, far exceeds getting the coronavirus. Just walking out the door.
This actually just brings up an interesting thought because, not to just re-bring up the volcano idea, but seriously, a lot of people view us opening the country as voluntarily throwing our elderly into a volcano,
which is not at all what it is.
No, it's not. But at the same time, it's gotten to the point now where literally this thing that is taking lives, like you said, 74,000 lives in our country, has now become something where it's become a bipartisan tool as to describe which person in which party is more loving, I guess, towards people. And it's ridiculous now because now people are saying that Republicans now are this is how pro-life people treat pro-life problems. And it's what is that supposed to mean? Being pro-life, I'm pro-life, and being pro-life is now a negative thing. It just because of the fact that we'd rather go to work than sit around and go insane and also not be able to feed our families. And
it's also not, like you said, it's not like we're dumping people down a volcano. This is not saying we're going to line up the firing squad and you're all gone. All it is saying is,
you want to get crazy about pro-life, then let's talk about, maybe the elderly be more at risk, but does that number, even if a good number of them unfortunately would get it and be whatever, let's just play with that idea, and we're sending them to their doom, would that number even come close to the amount of abortions that are still going on because Planned Parenthood is still alive, still alive and going?
And those are active choices as well, which I think is a big difference. Yes, it's an active choice to take an acceptable risk and go outside. In life. Yes, it's an acceptable risk during a pandemic to go anywhere other than the places deemed safe. Yes, it's an acceptable risk. However, the choice is yours to do that, but is your choice to affect another life? That's a whole other conversation in its own.
Absolutely.
And I don't think you can compare the two. I think they're completely
I'm just saying
separate.
It's a double standard in a way.
Very much. The hypocrisy that is being exposed in all of this is absolutely insane.
Well, that's another thing too, and that's what I was going to mention. You have them saying that the Republicans are all these how is pro-life even what you could say about yourself if you're treating this situation like this? But then on the other side too, it's hypocrisy, just screaming across to the left, right? Well, all of us have it's all the way around on both ends. Like that's the thing that I can't stand is like a lot of people like don't necessarily know our exact political beliefs or standpoints,
they
but
probably
like they have a guess. no, they have a guess of what way of like things that were like that we uphold. But like, yeah, I mean, like we've mentioned before, like conservative ideas. I don't know. For me, I don't adhere to a bipartisan thing. I can't get behind either of them. And
well, there's
so,
not always one answer.
Well, no, absolutely not. But like, I mean, I claim myself as an independent, and a lot of people are like, oh, so then you're throwing away your vote. No, what that means is I listen to logic and not a party.
Yeah.
You know,
you should always vote your conscience. Whether you think your guys are going to win or not.
Ooh,
right, exactly. And so, like for me, like sitting in this, it's interesting because a lot of people want to ask me, well, who do you support? And that pretty much always falls back to like, which party do I support? Which leader do I support?
Right.
Trump? Do I
Across
support
the
Pelosi?
board?
You know, like what is right? Like who do I fall in line with? And reality is no. I mean, there are things in this that I wish Trump would have done at the beginning that he didn't do. There are things in this that I wish that we were doing like now, like opening up the beaches sooner, or like opening up the country sooner, that we're not doing. That would be more of a conservative idea. Right. But like that doesn't necessarily separate me from wanting the benefit of other people too, which is what a lot of people are getting into now. It's like, you don't want this to happen. You're not pro-life. You know, like.
It's our prerogative to classify and judge people based off those classifications, and our country should be set up upon the idea that like, hey, like the term "not my president," I don't care who the president is, not my president.
You can't do that.
Wrong, because yes, Obama was not my president. He's not the person I voted for. However, he is my president, whether I like it or not.
By definition, yeah.
That the very idea that someone has made president means someone's vote was heard and that vote went through, and was it my vote? No. But do I get heard about it? No. I say, okay, I don't agree with a lot of things, but I have my right to voice my opinion on it, and that's where we need to be. Is that we have our opinions, we have our beliefs, we have our ideals, and we need to be able to bring them to the table and talk about them. But at the end of the day, the people elect who they want to have. And at that stage, we need to respect our authorities, whether we like them or not.
Yeah. Whether you like them or not, you have to obey at some point.
Yeah. I mean, like everybody has had a fear of government and just like, what are they hiding since the 50s? You know, since Eisenhower like ended up telling everybody, these roadways,
since the beginning of time.
Right.
Like constantly, the constant struggle of governments and power versus the people, and that's just the life, right?
No, for sure. But like fear of the government, as far as like fear of not being able to control what is happening as an independent voter, started in America in around the 50s when Eisenhower was building roadways. And he was saying that these are used for public transportation. That's all it is. But then it turned out it was used for military transport. And that was the main reason behind our freeway system, is getting tanks from one location to another. So as soon as people started to realize that Eisenhower was willing to lie about this government thing in order to be able to make it more palatable to the actual people in the country, people have been in fear of what is it that they're hiding from us this whole time, you know?
Right.
And if we let that fear like move forward and trump what Chris is talking about and saying like there are government officials that we as individuals, even if it's not your vote, collectively we've trusted enough to put into power, like there at some point you have to be hands off enough to say I'm going to be okay with that,
right?
As opposed to wanting to stand up and be like, I'm not okay with what the system ended up choosing. That's just in of itself not trusting the people that you and your fellow Americans put into power,
right? But
so like
at the same
how
time,
are you moving forward like that?
At the same time, you have a right for your voice to be heard, and do it in a way which is why the whole idea of democracy is why it works so well in America. Yes, there's both sides, but you have to come together, and at some point you make a decision. And Ken makes a great point here, Ken. He says, facts don't care about your feelings. And I think that's 100% right. But I think my favorite part about this whole conversation is that when we go to Jake and he's making all these very serious points, there is a woman holding a dolphin puppet behind him. So, and it makes it all that much more palatable. I feel like you could say all kinds of crazy stuff, but if you've got a picture like that, people are like, well, he's not mean. He's got a lady with a dolphin behind him. How can he be?
I'm gonna bomb the U.S. subway.
Okay, no. That was not. He didn't say this. No, there's workers down there cleaning it up. But yeah,
they're the ones that need to run.
This whole thing is super crazy. And Hallie said that's Jake in a nutshell, but that's not true because how did you get in this bloody big nutshell? Ken makes a great point. Who doesn't? And I think he means love. Who doesn't love dolphins? I mean, come on.
Live dolphins though. A dolphin is a lifestyle.
Jake does live dolphin. That's true. I forgot about that. Thanks for checking out the Trending Stories Taking Over show. If you like that video, make sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell so you know whenever we have a new video and you're aware of any of the live streams when we do a full show. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, on Spotify, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Go to tstoshow.com, check it out, or watch one of these other videos over here. You're gonna like it. I have a feeling you're gonna love it.